Now, if there was anything that I ever should have made a theme song intro video, it was this. But here we are talking about the beginning of this incredible world that George created.
When did you first buy the first book?
So I bought them 2017, I think. I was in
okay.
The season 7 come out in 17.
I think so. Because season 8 was 19.
Yeah.
It ended in 19.
I was sitting in my one of my best friend's apartments in 2017, and he'd been hounding me to watch this show, and I was just like, man, I'm not gonna watch a TV show about Boromir getting it on with a dragon. And I had been hounding him to watch a show called The Last Kingdom. And he said, look, I will watch the first episode if you watch the first episode of Game of Thrones. And so I, of course, made him watch mine first. And we finished it, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to get into that. But now you have to watch the first episode of Game of Thrones. And I watched it, and it was immediately hooked. We watched it at about 4:00 the day that the 4th episode of season 7 came out, where where Daenerys attacks the Lannister army. And I was caught up and ready that Thursday.
Yeah, it seems like so we have Ronnie, Grey Pilgrim.
Oh yeah.
Gatekeeper's Daimyo. What's up, guys? It seems like I read the first book the year before the show came out. So when is that? 2010?
2009, 2010.
Yeah.
I think it came out in 11.
Yeah, I read the first 3 books within a year.
So I my first time through, I listened to them. I got them on Audible.
Okay.
And I was through the first 4 in 2 weeks, maybe 3. I was like, I'd walk over to my friend's house and listen to a chapter on the way over there. I mean, I was just hooked. And the thing that got me was I loved how the first season was they were like picture perfect of each other. I mean, there's very little from the first book that isn't in that first season. And then obviously we know it, it drifts off. But I loved it was really cool having watched the season and then watching and then listening to the audiobook and picturing the scenes.
Yeah.
Like I really liked that.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't do the audiobook, but I read them, so
yeah, so the only issue I had with reading them were the versions I bought were very small writing. And I've always told people, if you're going to buy Lord of the Rings or Song of Ice and Fire, you need to get either very small versions that are thin, or you need to get versions that have very big type.
The like the big books.
Yes, because you need to be able to see yourself make progress.
Yeah.
Because, I've got a giant copy of Lord of the Rings next to me. And it's a big old brick. And, if you get bogged down in the Tom Bombadil chapter, you're not going to see yourself making progress. So you're going to give up. I've talked to several people that have just given up because they don't feel like they're progressing in the story.
Grey Pilgrim. It's a good question. You want to give your opinion on that and take that first, Caleb?
See, are the books worth reading, even though they might never get finished, in the show worth watching? Besides how bad season 8 is, yes. So but it is both worth reading and worth watching. There is a reason Game of Thrones is the biggest show ever made. not money wise, because Rings of Power is now the most expensive thing ever made. But 19 million people watched almost every episode of season 8. It was the biggest show in the world. And not only is it almost a cultural event, but the story, I mean, even if you take out season 8, the stories and the writing are just, they're incredible. There are, especially today, they are levels above anything we've received. Season 1 through 4, or season 1 through 5, I would say are even better than House of the Dragon. And House of the Dragon is incredible.
I know some people, have some criticisms of season 6, because George R.R. Martin, for those that don't know, he had a falling out with a difference of opinion, a falling out with Dave and Dan that they kept under wraps to try to get to the end of the show. George wanted certain characters included, like Lady Stoneheart, and just the overall direction of where Dan and Dave were taking it. And so they had a falling out. After season 5, George was not really as involved at all from season 6, 7, and 8. But season 6 is my favorite season. The Battle of the Bastards, it to me is some of the best television that's ever been put out, if not top 2 or 3 for me. Is it worth it? Absolutely, because even as much division as season 7 and season 8 caused with Game of Thrones, it's still a huge fan base. There still were moments with, characters, supporting characters, when they, I don't want to give too much away for someone that maybe still hadn't seen it, but like when they knighted Brienne before the Battle of Winterfell, there's so many moments that are still great that I could go back and watch over and over and over again. And then there's things that I don't. But to me, I still believe the books are going to be finished. And I know that I may be in the minority on that, but I think it's some of the best writing that's been done in the last, 40, 50 years in sci-fi, fantasy, fiction. I think there's a reason why the show itself on HBO became a juggernaut. And yes, some of it's Dan and Dave. They deserve credit. The casting was great.
Absolutely.
And the cinematographers, the directors, you're going to see Alan Taylor in House of the Dragon season 2 directing the Battle of Rook's Rest.
Oh yeah.
Alan Taylor directed some early season Game of Thrones episodes, and so I think it took everybody to make it great, including the actors. But it all started with what was on the written page, and the reason why you don't see stuff like this now is that, in Hollywood, and Robert Meyer Burnett said this on a stream last night, there needs to be a purge. There needs to be a purge of people that are involved in shows and films and that are writing stories and are part of creative teams that are not qualified. They're not qualified to tell action adventure stories, dramas, comedies, sci-fi, fantasy, just all around. The overall content is really poor. And yeah, there's some identity politics to that. But at the end of the day, it's these people aren't qualified to be in the jobs they're in until they get out of the industry and doing something else. You're not going to see stuff like, what's the next Game of Thrones or what's the next Breaking Bad.
Well, and that's the funny thing, it's kind of a writer's thing, because I mean, at the end of the day, it really does all start with what's on the page, and that's what provides the actor with the inspiration. That's what provides the director with the inspiration on how to shoot the movie or the TV show. And George just, look, I know, I kind of give crap. I kind of give George crap for kind of copying J.R. Tolkien,
which he does,
especially with the RR.
But there's one fundamental difference between the two. and that is George is not afraid to kill characters. And every interview he's
Yeah.
ever done, he complains that he did not like the fact that they didn't kill Gandalf, that he came back as the Gandalf the White. Like
Yeah.
he talks about, it's such a great death, and then you bring him back, like, well, George, you kind of sort of did that with Jon Snow. But his answer to that was, well, that's part of the original story, But George's his work is more violent.
Yeah, well, it's more of the world history that we know,
right,
and less of the world history that we've all forgotten, which is what Tolkien was trying to do. But to answer Pilgrim's, I guess, first part of the question, we definitely answered the second part. But that first part, are the books worth reading? Absolutely. Look, no one will touch Tolkien in his creation of lore and language and song and character. And I can't speak to Wheel of Time because those books are bricks, and the people that have read them know their stuff. But I think George Martin is as close as we're capable of getting in today's world, because Tolkien lived in a different time when I think people were smarter. I think people had more time to do stuff like that. And I don't think we'll get something like Tolkien ever again. And so I think George has come as close as I think we can get. And he's done it. I mean, assuming he finishes them and I like the ending. He's done it fairly well so far.
Would you have been what would you have thought if the series had cast the character to play Robert Baratheon that they originally wanted, which was Brian Cox from Succession?
Oh, honestly, I don't think it would have changed anything. Brian Cox plays a character in a show with Sean Bean called Sharp. It's a mini series based on the Sharp character written by Bernard Cromwell. And he plays a intelligence officer in in Wellington's army during the Portugal campaign. And it's very much a Robert character. He does you'll see him take what was cocaine called back then? Snuff. He takes snuff. He does he talks about how he's just ready to go to war and stuff like that. So it's very much I think it would have been, I think it's kind of a push.
Yeah. I forgot he played Stryker with
Yes.
Wolverine.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Star Wars Marvel purist, you're on top of it. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I when I think about Brian Cox, I guess I just think about the last few things I've seen him in. He's been so big
and
Succession.
Born Ultimate.
But yeah. And you know what else he was in? He was in Troy. He played Agamemnon.
Yes, he did.
Agamemnon.
Back when he could still run.
Yeah. He wore the little skirt. But no, and of course they going back to season 1 of Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke was not the original Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah. I've never seen, like, I never I don't remember who that actress was.
She was in The Tudors.
Oh. Which one?
She was
the
Tamsin Merchant. It was Tamsin Merchant. She played
Oh, her. Yeah, no, I'm glad they recast her.
She played Anne. She wasn't Anne of Cleves. Let's see.
She was Catherine. She was the second Catherine.
That's
Catherine
right.
Howard.
She was Catherine Howard. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's where I first saw her. She was in The Tudors 2009, 2010. And then that's interesting because she went straight. She probably got cast in Game of Thrones based on her work as Catherine Howard in The Tudors, because that would
I
have
can
been
see that.
around the time that they filmed the pilot. So for those that don't know, she I'm looking at her she was in Dragonheart, Battle for Hardfire. I guess that was a sequel. She was in 2 Dragonheart movies.
Well, so was Natalie Dormer was in The Tudors.
That's right. She played Anne
Yep.
Boleyn.
And
So-
of course
so-
played what's her name to create
So that was pretty ballsy. You know, they bring in Tamsin Merchant. They start filming the pilot,
the pilot that we'll never see.
and then they got greenlit to go ahead and do the season. I think Tamsin was started on the season after the pilot. Now they changed Catelyn Stark.
Oh, that's
on
right.
The pilot. They changed her from the pilot, and then they started filming season 1, and then they brought in Emilia Clarke. I don't know how early on they did, but it was during season 1, not the pilot, if I remember correctly, because they called Emilia and she didn't go through a long process. She was brought in pretty quickly.
Here we go. Our saltiest member here, Nikki.
Hey guys, sorry late.
Oh no, I'm just happy you were able to come by.
Of course, I never get to talk Game of Thrones unless I'm with Sundowner, so I'll always take a chance.
I know I had to get one of my banners out tonight for you.
Oh my gosh, it's freaking awesome, dude. I can only
Isn't
imagine
it?
all the stuff you have.
See the tassels? You get the tassels on the bottom.
I have one that looks like that, but a Winterfell, the Stark one.
There's one for the Starks that I want to buy. I just don't have room to put it on my wall.
What's your favorite banners? Your favorite banner Stark? Both of you?
It's hard to choose.
It is. I have times when I look at like House Baratheon and I go, man, I love the
So I think Stark is probably my favorite sigil, but
yeah,
I think my favorite words are a tie. It's a 3-way tie between Stark, what was oh my god, what's his name? The Pike.
Oh,
We do
Island.
not sow, and the Baratheons.
Yeah,
I absolutely love those 3 words.
I'm a fan of wolves, so that's why I'm more partial to the Stark banner. But I also love dragons, and the 3-headed dragon is very fantasy. So that plays into my fantasy side of things.
Do you like Aegon's sigil for season 2? Have you seen that?
I don't think I have.
The green and gold, right?
Is it green in the background? Is it dark green?
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense. The greens versus black, but it's gold. The dragons are gold, and I saw somewhere that it's because of his dragon Sunfire.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense.
He's paying homage to Sunfire. I want to see quite a bit of Sunfire this upcoming season, like because they talk about it being the most beautiful dragon.
Oh yeah, I want to see it up close.
Yeah,
well, I think we'll see a lot of dragons because not just because obviously where it takes place or when it takes place, but because they wrapped actual filming, like practical filming, like a month and a half ago, and they'll be doing effects filming on their studios for like another month, I think.
Well, they have stuff allotted scheduled to go do reshoots in Spain.
Oh, do they? Oh.
And yeah, so doesn't mean they're gonna do it, but they
have so that if they have to do stuff to get around to that they wanted to do, but the strike was preventing them, that they'll be able to go do that.
I think the only thing that terrifies me is that one of the reasons season 1 was so amazing is because they had extra time because of the pandemic to revisit the scripts. This is not that. So unless the strike goes on for a super long time and then they have time to sit there with it once they're done with everything, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So hopefully what they're doing is just as good as the first one, if not better.
But I feel, Alan Taylor directing the episode with Rook's Rest. I like that
man.
choice. I feel good about that.
Yeah, he did Battle of Blackwater, right?
Did he do Blackwater? He
I
did. He
think
did
so.
several of the big early seasons, so that's
Mhm.
possible. Because what was that, season 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because they didn't have the budget in those days. Blackwater could have been a much bigger battle.
It could have been awesome.
It
Yeah,
still looked great though.
Yeah,
Imagine having the
Tyrion
Battle of
carried that
Bastards
episode.
budget for Battle of Blackwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did you see someone on Twitter? They had in England they had letter notices that went out. We're going to be filming in your area September 1st. Did you guys see all that?
No.
No.
Yeah, they sent to some people in the little towns that they were going to be filming like August 30th, 31st, the 1st of September.
That's
So I would
amazing.
assume that would be it would have to do with the Vale. It would either be the Reach, the Vale, because I think some of the shots we've already seen of Winterfell looks like it could be during snow. Could be during like they have the what do you call the top level of the battle?
The walls, battlements.
The battlements, yeah, that
Mhm.
it's got snow on it, and so people are like, "That's Castle Black." I'm like, "Castle Black's not in House of the Dragon season 2. It's Winterfell."
Yeah. So Alan Taylor directed.
He didn't do
Baylor, season 1, episode 9. Fire and Blood, season 1, episode 10.
Oh,
The North Remembers and the Nightlands. That's season 1 and episode 1 and episode 2 of season 2. The Prince of Winterfell, episode 8 of season 2. And
That's
Valar Morghulis, episode 10, season 2. And then in 7, Beyond the Wall.
was the Prince of Winterfell when Bran and them escaped, Theon? So.
No, that's
to be honest, episode 6, season 7 is one of the best ones of that one because that's where you get everybody walking beyond the wall, having these conversations. It's my favorite with Beric and Jon. Like that's the best part of that whole season is all of them just talking. It's always just them talking that is the best freaking episodes. Like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms for season 8 and that Trash Fire season, that episode was like the standout. Why? Because they were just talking.
Yes,
the
conversation
yes.
moves these stories along in such a way that I just don't think people really understand anymore.
How great was Beric? Death always wins. But we
yes,
fight it anyway.
That's my favorite. One of my favorite things of the whole show is that speech that he gives to Jon. Such a complex character.
So Prince of Winterfell, Stannis is just days from King's Landing. Tyrion prepares for his rival. Jon and Corrin Halfhand, are taken prisoner by the wildlings. Catelyn's arrested for releasing Jaime, and Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie plan to escape Harrenhal.
So what matters is that most of his work was the first 2 seasons, which were like the most book accurate best.
And
season.
Your favorite episode, season 7.
Yes.
Well, they brought in Alan Taylor supposedly because of Sapochnik leaving.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Sapochnik leaving.
Yeah. So
you know why he left, right?
Because they wouldn't hire his wife, right?
Yep.
Well, she wasn't. She was in the freaking background of almost every stupid episode.
He wouldn't make her a producer, I think is what it was.
He wanted writing credit and I think producing credit, but definitely writing credit, saying that all the stuff he was doing behind the scenes, like she was equal to him. Well, if you don't have that pre-negotiated with HBO or Warner's and Ryan Condal, then he knew what he was doing. It got to where it was a power play between him and Ryan, and they were like, "Look, that should have been negotiated before you started season 1, whatever the contract was or whatever her role was going to be, And I know he's got his side of it, but I like Miguel Sapochnik, but I have a hard time looking past his direction of the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah,
I had a better viewing experience of it than most people because I had a theater room where the color, the black, the lighting.
Oh, so you had the right setup for the long night, so it was perfectly well lit for you.
And guess what? It was still dark. And so when he said that, I said, I have Dolby Atmos with 2 rows of seating in a theater room with a 120-inch screen with a projector. Like I had the perfect setup, and I still was looking at it going, it's dark. Like, and I know it takes place at night, but you couldn't see.
Such an asshole thing to say to people.
Yeah, it was really pretentious. Like, well, this is the way to watch it, dude. You're putting out an episode where 90+% of the population is watching it on a 32-inch TV.
Yeah, what they're saying, what he was saying is, "Oh, I'm sorry you're too poor to watch the show like we made it."
Yeah, and then I was like, wait a minute, I had the setup he's talking about, and I still thought it was too dark. Yeah, that was, and so I kind of never really forgot that Sapochnik. Yeah, that Sapochnik, that's the lunatic I was talking about. Yeah, he clearly didn't get along with Ryan.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I swear they filmed the show and they didn't let anyone that was going to do talking heads after watch it because everyone thought, oh, this is what the show's going to be. And then that's not what the episode was about.
The actress Olivia Cook, who plays Allison, was saying, oh, I just played her like she was a woman for Trump. And they were talking about like abortion rights and all this stuff. And it's like, bro, shut up. None of that came through.
Yeah. And you know what? Right after that interview, they nipped that in the bud. Like, you haven't seen that since then.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, what I like about House of the Dragon is you have this actress, Emma Darcy, that plays Rhaenyra. And her background and she, but I love her because she's not out there, spouting off at the mouth, about, her identity, as an actress and what her real life is. She's playing a character.
She did say one thing one time that I was like, it was kind of cringe. She was like, it's great to be able to play a woman and blah, blah. I'm like, you are a woman. I know you don't want to say you are, but don't act like if it's some challenge, like if you're playing like a black man, that's something you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So and listen, I mean, if you see her in real life, playing the character where she's got long hair and she's got these scenes with Damon, it probably was a stretch.
Whoa.
I mean, she's a good actress, like,
and she's so beautiful in the show. Like she's a beautiful person.
Yeah.
What I think's really funny is Emma D'Arcy in House of the Dragon does look a lot like Millie Alcock. But I think it's kind of funny how when they were doing interviews, like when Condal, I think Sapochnik, and probably the episode 5 director were doing interviews about, what's it going to be like when y'all do this time jump? Are we going? Do you think the fans will support the new actresses? And they all kind of like insinuated, well, we picked Emma D'Arcy because she's kind of an uglier version. They all like insinuate that. It's like, I'd be really upset if I got told I got cast because I'm ugly.
They probably tried to imply like a more rugged, because I know these shows love to do their feminist stuff, and like if anything, a show like this and Game of Thrones is a good way to do that because women were oppressed back then to not be rulers and stuff. So this is their opportunity to lap that up, and they're not. I mean, to me, she still was a very feminine person in the show. She's had so many kids. Yeah.
She was vulnerable and very, very good chemistry with Matt Smith. I mean, when she first showed up halfway through season 1, the girl Millie Alcock that played the younger Rhaenyra, I loved her.
Absolutely.
Thought she was amazing. And I was like, oh man, they're jumping, this early in season 1. I don't know how I feel about it.
It was a risk. It was a risk.
It was.
Boy, did it pay off.
It took me one episode of Emma Darcy. Then I was like, you know what? I mean, like I dig her character, man. She I thought it was good casting. Now that doesn't mean that I don't want to see some when they start to cast for Aegon the Conqueror, and we see other female Targaryens. I think you start to get into Visenya and some of the others where I have definite views in my mind of how they look.
I picture Visenya as Lagertha from Vikings. That she to me is the perfect Visenya. If you guys haven't seen Vikings, Lagertha, she plays a female Viking. But so for House of the Dragon, I think I'm good with all the casting except for one, and I can't tell if it's because I don't like her acting or I didn't like what they did with her character, which is Rhaenys. I don't like what they did with her character.
So the thing that I was good with Rhaenys all the way until the last episode, where she's standing instead of kneeling to her queen.
Yeah, they tried to give her, excuse my language, that boss bitch stuff. When in reality, it just made her come off like she didn't care about anybody but herself. The whole thing with her going up through the dragon pit with Meleese or whatever, they did that to be like a shock moment to get you in the mood.
Sense for the story.
But then at first I was like, oh shit, look at her. And then afterwards I'm like, yo, she just killed, like she's just started the war basically. She just killed a ton of small folk. Like what the freak? Like,
and you've now ruined it, you've now harmed your side's cause because you just killed a bunch of the citizens of the city that rules the world.
Yeah.
The other advisor is in the chat. Hey guys, can only stop by, but everything I'm hearing sounds great. I'll have some free time coming up, so can't wait until next time. Caleb, keep up the awesome work. Thanks, buddy. There is more than one of us.
So, Rhaenys Valerian was 55 when she died.
Don't give away too much for the people that haven't read the books in the chat.
And she had brown hair in the books, right?
She did.
That?
She did.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if what they're just going to do for, I guess, to help people keep track of Targaryens, they're just going to give them all blonde hair.
It would be it's so easy.
Yeah, because there's a few of them that don't have blonde hair.
You can't make it. You've got to make it easy on the viewer.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty easy way to do it because you can't rely on us looking at their eyes.
I wish they would have given Daenerys the purple eyes. Like I feel like if you give the Targaryens the purple eyes,
I wish so too.
It adds a layer of fantasy to it. It makes them more separate than like I guess regular people. You know, I think that
there's no doubt. It seems like I saw in a documentary or something that they answered that question. It was money and it was just the time.
Yeah,
you know of doing that. But
what contacts in her damn eyes? They do it in The Witcher. Right.
Yeah, Yennefer has purple eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't get me started on The Witcher.
I don't know anything about The Witcher. I really want to do like a normie versus fan thing.
Hey, have you guys ever seen? I may be dating myself, maybe too old for you guys, but there's the movie Animal House.
Yeah.
Where John Belushi, they're at a frat party and there's a guy sitting on the stairs playing the guitar. And John Belushi walks by and looks at him, and then he turns back and looks, and he grabs the guitar and smashes it on the wall. Mm-hmm. Every time that guy is playing that guitar in The Witcher, I want to just smash it over his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's part of the Witcher story, where they start playing the music and singing. And I'm
he had a hit the first season, but then after that, it was just insufferable.
Well, the thing that's annoying is every fantasy show that we get now is trying to do the same thing that Game of Thrones did with Winter is Coming. They keep trying to make a phrase that everyone's going to start saying. You saw like 30 of them in Rings of Power. I've been told that Witcher has like 4 or 5 of them now. And it's just like, guys, just be original.
So here's a question for you. Why in the early seasons did they show Sam finding the horn?
Oh yeah, and they never
because the horn, it was supposed to be the horn that takes down the wall, right?
That's what it is in lore, but they haven't confirmed in the book if that's the actual one.
Yeah.
Right. So they showed Sam up north, he finds a horn, right? We don't know it's the horn, but he finds a horn. And then at the time there was so much. You had to watch every episode because you thought they're going to cover this later. You have to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And then that was one of those things we never saw again.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys were doing the same thing, but every time Sam opened a book, I was freezing. I was stopping the screen and going, okay, what's on the page? Like these little nuggets of information. Some of those things paid off, but a lot didn't. You know,
like Gilly finding that about the annulment.
right.
Or freaking Gilly and the baby that one White Walker did take from Craster's Keep. And they never they just showed you that they turned them into what, baby whites?
Yeah.
They never did anything with that little piece of information, though.
They haven't done anything yet with it. That's my theory, Nikki.
Okay.
Is that
I do love the theory. It's a lot of hope, but
we are going to see the return.
I don't see it happening.
Of a new threat in the North, and it's going to be tied in the new series. It's going to be tied into those babies, and that's the way the Night King stayed alive.
Dan is completely right about that. The D&D fought for less magical elements,
and I'm okay with that. I think.
Well, it makes sense because the first 2 books, which are what they had 4 books when they started writing the show, and then the 5th book came out
within a year.
Like a year after.
That bit them in the ass because guess what? As much as I don't like undead Catelyn, she is a huge part of the book, and all the stuff that happens, and her missing from the story really affected the show. And I think because George made a comment that he regretted killing somebody off, and I think it's her. That's why she's literally back from the dead.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons for the falling out with Dan and Dave. Was he wanted Lady Stoneheart in the show, and they said no.
But the problem is that George didn't really, I feel like at least, didn't really start putting deep or magical rules into the story until the 3rd book. Because that's when we opened with the stone candles. That's when I think we get more lore about the what are they called? The Macer conspiracy, and stuff like that. And I feel like if he had kind of started that in the 2nd book, I don't think he'd have as much trouble as he's having right now. I think he's trying to wrap up some of these conspiracies that he's created.
I think Winds of Winter is harder for him to write than A Dream of Spring is going to be.
Oh yeah. He's got to, because once he gets past
he needs to get past not just that to me I think is one of the easier parts he has. I think his hardest task is getting Daenerys out of Meereen. All the chaos going on. I think that's his problem. That's his biggest problem. So hopefully he
should have started that in Dense Dragons.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Nikki, that's a high compliment Dan's just giving you.
What?
Your lore is spot on.
Oh, thank you. I have horrible memory.
I think he's on his 8th reread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I need to do that soon.
I do too. I stopped. I was reading and then watching the seasons for the book, and then reading and then watching the season. I got through, I think, season 4, and I thought, think about where you're about to go to. Don't do this to yourself. So I stopped.
I still think for me, I think it's worth it. You know, I've talked to people that said, well, do I read the books or watch the show? Because it seems like if you read the books, you know, I still think it's fun. Even when you're disappointed and you're like, well, I don't like what they did with Euron Greyjoy in the series versus the books. There's going to be things that you pick apart, but I still think that's a cool part of fandom when you've read the books and you have this thing in your mind about what characters look like or what they do, and then all of a sudden
I love having the visuals, in your head when you read the books. And for example, one thing that I think the show did better was in Harrenhal, Arya and Tywin instead of Arya and Roose Bolton.
Yes,
that to me is probably one of the best moments of the whole show. You still wonder to this day, did Tywin know who she was?
Yes,
you know,
yes. I'm so happy you said that. That was on my that was my honorable mention in my top 5 favorite moments.
And you know, that was also a cool scene where Arya is talking about Aegon's sisters, right? And Senya and I love those scenes.
And he gets it wrong, and
she's like, my lord, and he's like, my lord. If you're gonna pose as a common girl, you might as well say it correctly.
And I was like, oh, he knows he's gonna bust her. He knows that she's somebody. And but those scenes were great, man. Tywin,
Special
Tywin
Ray,
was
he would have killed her if he knew. I don't think so because he has like he was cold blooded for his family, but he also wasn't like vengeful towards like a little girl. So I think
he would have killed her. He just would have captured her and taken her back to King's Landing, put her under guard with Sansa, and then he probably would have. He wouldn't run off to the war. He would have gone back to King's Landing, sent out the Raven that said, "Hey, I have your daughters. Give me my son."
Yeah,
and Jaime wouldn't have lost his head.
And that could have been that's a storyline of Tywin, keeping Arya close to him and building a relationship, kind of like the Hound and Arya did. But it would have been more intentional with Tywin to try to develop a relationship.
The Hound has been like a guardian angel for the Stark girls. It's crazy to think, right? I love that duality that George can do with these characters. Like he's a monster, but he protected Sansa as much as he could while she was in the castle, and then he protected Arya when they were on the road. Like she's the reason. He's the reason that Arya didn't die in the Red Wedding. Like he took her from them.
She was going to run in there. That's one of the things I don't do. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything else in films or television. Has any other writer taking characters that you despise to start out with, and by the end, you come to love?
Who wants to make fun of me today? I can think of one other time, and it happened in probably 2 episodes of the show. And it's Downton Abbey. So one of the footmen is named Thomas, and you basically hate him for 54 episodes, and in the second to last episode you're like, oh my gosh, maybe he's not so bad, and by the end of the last episode you love the guy.
I still didn't like him though at the end. I know what you're saying, but I think George is so good. This is the lesson of storytelling is you begin with the end in mind. And so George, the minute he started writing the characters of the Hound and of Jaime, he knew where he was taking them. In terms of their story arcs.
Dude, the Hound in the book, I'm so curious because in the book people don't know if the Hound is alive. Like we know, we have our theories of what is it called, the Gravedigger, the theory that that's him. He's just living his life in solitude in the quiet isles. Yeah. I can't wait for that. Oh my God, George, you just do it, man. 12 years. They left Jon Snow dead on the freaking wall still. This poor dude's been dead for 12 years.
Well, speaking of that,
that was a weird time of Game of Thrones when the Hound was building the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to admit though, that cold
with
open,
Ian McShane as
that cold open
guy.
Was like, oh, he's alive. That cold open was really great. And then they did a very good, in my opinion, in that moment, a good little mini character arc to show that he all these people got killed and he instantly reverted back to the old town, but he did it because he cared about the people he was helping build the church for. So I really enjoyed that. And then Ian McShane spoiled his character's fate. Remember that before the episode aired and people were super pissed?
Oh no, I don't. Well, see, again, this is that it's so funny how little I had spoiled for me, considering I started in the middle of season 7.
Oh, yeah.
I started right when season 6 ended because I never had HBO. Because otherwise this show was right up my alley, but I never had HBO. And then finally my cousin, I was living in Texas at the time, they're like, you haven't seen Game of Thrones? That is your show. And I'm like, no, I binged that show in a week, 2 weeks, and then I've seen it 5 times since. I'll never forget my reaction to the Red Wedding, dude. I'll never forget it. My jaw was just open the rest of the freaking episode.
So
yeah, it's been 12 years and 19 days since Dance of Dragons came out.
I started when season 1 hit HBO, and I've always been a huge Excalibur, Arthurian, and I'm real critical of anything that covers Arthur because I don't think anything that's been put out is close to what the potential. Game of Thrones to me is the closest thing to the way the story of Arthur should have been told. Game of Thrones is the closest thing to it. So I'm very critical. I started with season 1 and I knew Sean Bean. So I was like, okay. And I was like, I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. And there was a little, it was slow. It was a slow build. I was like, oh man, the guy is fooling around with his sister. That was different. And so I was sticking with it, but I wouldn't say I was in love with the show. I liked it. And then you meet Daenerys, and I was like, I fell in love with her character immediately. And
I wonder why.
And then and then season 2, when they get season 2, when was the Red Wedding? The next to last episode. When was the Reigns of Castamere?
Yeah, it has to have been
Season
episode 9.
Episode 9, season 3.
Season 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So it had been season 3. So I was a couple of seasons in when it actually first aired, and when the Red Wedding happened, even after Ned died. So I was like, okay, they brought Sean Bean on. He wasn't going to be there for the whole series, kind of getting it started. He was the most famous one. So kind of sort of made sense. When they got to the Red Wedding and that all happened, I remember calling friends saying, you have to watch this show.
That was it. Yeah.
That to me, that moment made Game of Thrones something different than anything that's medieval fantasy. That separated it from anything else I'd ever seen.
Because they weren't afraid to go there. They weren't afraid to kill off your favorite characters. They went from killing off anybody could die to all the way to episode 7, be on the wall, when they all freaking survived being surrounded by White Walkers. What is that?
Can you imagine?
And when Benjen comes back to save Jon.
Oh my God. You mean Cold Hands?
Yeah.
Could you imagine Dan and Dave? Because Richard Plepler didn't read the books. He was running HBO at the time. Can you imagine Dan and Dave going into Richard Plepler and saying, okay, so we're going to kill the Robb Stark character? And he goes, okay, well, thought he's going to be one of the protagonists. No, it's going to be Jon Snow, but it'll take us another season or 2 to get there. And he's like, okay. It's like, oh, yeah, but we're not done. We're going to get it. His mother's going to get her throat slit. She's going to die too. Okay. Oh, and the girl he married that's pregnant, they're going to stab her.
That was brutal.
Like
literally, they're going to cut the head off of the dire wolf. Everybody basically is going to die.
Yeah.
And Richard Plepler's like, okay. You don't see that nowadays. You just don't see that, when they're trying to build an audience, the shock value of that. Shows that get rave reviews today, Succession, I thought for sure Succession, they're going to kill half this cast by the end of the show.
The series finale felt kind of flat for me.
It was like, so you're telling me that none of these characters died is so off the reservation mentally that they are. But that shows you how different Game of Thrones was.
Yeah.
When the Red Wedding happened, to me, that as a fan, that was when it went from being a show that I enjoyed to a show that I'm still talking about 10 years later.
And that is what got me into watching YouTube reactions, because I was addicted to watching people react to the Red Wedding. That's some of the highest viewed videos for some reactors is the Red Wedding reaction.
Nikki, did you watch the videos that they had? I think they started maybe in season 4 or 5.
At the bar?
The bar.
Yes. Yes.
And they get so pissed. Like when Ramsay, they're like, oh, people are screaming.
Yeah, dude. The Battle of the Bastards, to me, my favorite thing about that episode is a one shot that they did when Jon Snow's in the middle of the battle, surrounded, and they did a one shot.
Such a good scene.
That's a great scene.
And I think they made a mistake with one of the things that I was talking to someone that is a VP at the largest theater chain in Tennessee. It's called Malco. And I asked him, when the theaters were struggling, during COVID, too bad there's no back to.
That's the answer to all the problems.
Yeah. Well, listen, there is a Bacta. It's called the Red Priestess. She brings you back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You got to fly with Drogon to Volantis, and then Daenerys comes back, and her eyes are. Hey, how about bringing Daenerys back in the future, and as she gets resurrected, her eyes are purple.
I think as much as I would want some crazy witchy story in Volantis with her, I think they just need to. They killed her. They got to deal with it.
Well, I bet you.
Wait a minute, though.
If we get more Emilia Clarke as Daenerys, it'll actually be some sort of Lady Stoneheart story where it's her just
because there's no. You're not supposed to. You don't deal in that magic without consequences. And Jon Snow essentially had no consequence. He survived.
Well, wait a minute. Kit said he's got PTSD.
Oh, because Kit's a pussy. Like, he's turned into such a freaking pussy lately. Like, that's why he said that. But
he saw Ygritte die. He killed Daenerys.
whatever.
He hung Ollie.
Good.
You know,
Ollie was a freaking turncoat. I don't care.
Ollie killed his wife.
For real.
Yeah.
And
Finn
Ollie
gave
was
him a
one of the
bro
ones.
nod.
And Ollie was the one that one of the people that shanked him to death.
Yeah, like Ollie. Who screw Ollie? I don't care about that kid.
For
Like,
real.
there were 14, 15-year-old kids back in those days that were soldiers. Come on.
You were an adult by the time you were like basically 9 back in the day. Like, and I went to and back in the day, so no one takes me out of context, but in like 2018, I went to a live performance of the Game of Thrones music. I have the video. I did it in Texas for my birthday. It's still one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Was it like an orchestra?
It was an orchestra. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a Harry Potter version coming here, and I'm debating whether or not I should go.
Do it, dude. It's one of the best experiences I have. I'm gonna see if I can compile all the video I took and show it to you guys one day. But the whole stage was themed for it, and I think to this day, one of my favorite episodes of Game of Thrones, top 3, is The Winds of Winter, the season 6 finale. And they did that whole piece, that 10-minute piece that you have from beginning to end. And to me, to this day, I still love that episode so much. That to me is where the show ended, to be honest. Because
did you like how Cersei ended?
No, who did?
Yeah, I thought Cersei was such a badass.
You mean
leader.
But you know, it was
zero
inspirational.
consequences to her?
No, it's inspirational because she got killed by the thing that she was trying to be, which is the power. The freaking castle collapsed on her. Whatever.
So I wanted to see her like she's gonna one of two things. I know people talked about Jaime was his arc was to kill her. I never thought that. I thought they could do it, but I didn't think that was the right move. I thought it was either that she's trying to get out of the Red Keep and she faces Arya.
Yes.
Or Sansa, which the problem with Sansa was that Sansa was back at Winterfell, and then you have another
They
plot
can teleport
hole.
now.
Well, yeah, you have another plot hole of Sansa making it from Winterfell to King's Landing without anybody knowing it quickly. So Arya, or she faces down Daenerys in defiance, like I'm not giving up my crown, and Daenerys, Drogon burns her.
The only issue I would have
see her go out standing as a queen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or I
saying,
was hoping that they do what they did with Jon and Daenerys, to be honest, that Jaime was just going to like stab her while he was hugging her or something. Like, I wish he would have killed her.
But I did like the fact that Jaime was like, he tells Brienne, I'm not who you think I am. I'm this despicable guy, I do hateful things for love, and like, I love her and I'm a bad person. Like, she's like, you're not, right? And he's like, no, I am. And at the end of the day, Jaime had this great story arc, but he ended kind of sort of where he began, which was beside Cersei. I didn't have a problem with that, but I wanted to see Cersei, she has the head cut off of Missandei. Like, I wanted to see her facing Daenerys, like, come and take the crown, right? Come and take it. Like, because I never saw Cersei as a coward. I thought Cersei was.
What about when she's getting ready to kill herself and Tommen when Stannis is at the gates?
Oh yeah, I remember that. I that was probably one of my favorite Tywin moments because he walks in and he's like, "We have won." Like, he just walks in all freaking like with his chest puffed out. The biggest crime is that Lena Headey never won anything for Cersei.
Yeah, she was badass in that role, man.
Yeah, very good.
And to this day, I am still nosy and curious as to what happened between her and the actor who plays Bronn behind the scenes. That they cannot even be in the same room with each other.
Well, they dated.
Yeah, I know they dated, but I wondered like what the hell happened that was so like they can't even be in the same room.
Did they date during the show or
no?
Prior?
They dated before. I think they dated before he was cast.
Oh wow!
Someone could pull that up, but I think they dated before because Nikki's right. She had it in her contract that she was. I think she had one scene during the course of the show with Bronn where he was in the room.
Yeah. No. It's season 3. It's the first episode. It's she walks out of Tyrion's room with the Kingsguard, and he puts the knife back into his back scabbard.
Oh yeah, I remember that. But I thought in season 8 there was something adjacent to that because she sent someone to go kill him
towards the end. But I think they dated. I think they dated before the show. I'm pretty sure.
I still think back to season 6, episode 10. That's where the show ended for me because that's when book readers that have been left hanging for like 12 years got actual confirmation that R plus L equals J. You know, we see the reveal of Jon being Rihanna and I was gonna say Rhaegar's son. You see Daenerys finally makes it to Dragonstone. Jon becomes the king in the north. Cersei freaking blows up the Sept and kills Marjorie and everybody in one fell swoop. Dude, and what I love about the production on this show is that the reason why the first like 7 minutes or so of that episode is so haunting is because they had never used piano before in their composition, and they used it for this specific episode to make you like extra aware of like something's not right. So like, and it totally did that. I'm obsessed with that episode. And freaking Tommen commits suicide. That. Like it was.
Yeah, that wild. Too. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no, that does all click now because I do remember the second the music started happening, going,
something weird is going on. Like it was the I was gonna say the Hound, his brother, the Mountain was like blocking Tommen's exit. I'm like, okay, is Cersei gonna kill her own child? Like
that's what I thought. I thought she was gonna make the move.
Mm-hmm.
God, there's not enough people talking about Game of Thrones.
I know.
So Jerome Flynn addressed it. I'm reading on the site Fandom Wire. Who knows how accurate this is? The former relationship with her co-star Jerome Flynn came to the public. They met in 1993 on the set of the Singer's Soldier series. Oh, you know, Jerome Flynn was a singer before he became an actor. Did y'all know that?
I did not, but I could definitely see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dated each other sometime back in 2002. There was no official confirmation why they broke up. Media outlets have made them the highlight. Reports started circulating about them having an extremely bad ending in the 2000s in the relationship, which affected their screen presence of the hit series. A report shared that the actress in her contract added a clause that stated she would not be put in the same scene as her former flame. The deep-rooted feud was even witnessed by crew members. As the Daily Telegraph reported, Jerome and Lena aren't even on speaking terms anymore as they're never in the same room at the same time. They use doubles. While the Bad Blood Flames continued to construct the past, Flem eventually opened up about it. He says he was at the Nashville's Con of Thrones in 2019. He asked about the rumors. In response, he shared that we were actually in the same scene together. And the last time I saw Lena, we were speaking. So I wouldn't believe everything you read. And like I said, the media can get pretty desperate for stories. He further complimented his co-star for her acting skills. Lena's a wonderful person, a wonderful actress. I think the world of her. So
I think they just had a really bad breakup. And
they did make up to the extent of being able to be professional. But yeah, the rumors were around early on that they were trying to do scenes and she would not be in a scene with him in those first few seasons where Bronn showed up with Jaime.
Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, imagine their sex must have been wild if they hate each other that much.
Good Lord. And she's out there now. If you ever follow anything like her Instagram or
I don't follow her. She's a little bit of a feminist.
She's different now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably she still want to work. It's probably because she still wants to work.
Yeah, but I think she probably doesn't have the easiest time getting jobs because she's very I don't know the word to describe her. You'd have to see some of her videos that she puts out to really get a sense of her.
She speaks her mind with no filter.
Yes. You know what it reminds me of? Who was the girl that was in Blade Runner? Sean Young. Do you guys remember Sean Young? She played the android in Blade Runner?
No, I never seen it.
She was also in a Kevin Costner movie, the movie that made Costner famous. But Sean Young was a up and coming
No
actress.
Way Out.
No Way Out. Yeah, she was in No Way Out. She was an up and coming actress that was like right there with Sigourney Weaver. She was like in big movies, and they were talking about how big of a star she was going to be, and she was so hard to work with. Just very strong personality and speaking her mind and just tough. And back in those days, I think she was, was probably hard because she talks about it. She got basically blacklisted. A lot of the male directors were like, we're not bringing her on. And
can you imagine that? I'm so glad that Game of Thrones got made in the time it was made. Can you imagine making Game of Thrones now in this like PC woke culture? We saw a little bit of it in season 8, to be honest.
We did. Well, we saw it started with Sansa and Ramsay.
Sansa was the ultimate. So to not give away spoilers for the series finale of Succession, but Shiv got the Sansa treatment in the sense that like they tried making them do morally correct things, but it makes them look like biatches at the end of the day, like stupid, like selfish, stupid bitches.
The good thing though, when it came to Sansa doing that, was she'd been through so much crap that it almost felt like, well, of course she would.
Well, and here's the thing, I get that too, but the way that the writers did this weird shortcut with her is that, but guess what? She was right about Daenerys all along. Yeah, but we didn't see her see that for herself. She just was right off the jump. Daenerys came with her dragons to help them. Daenerys was being super sweet to them. A little tweak in the writing, and I bet you anything Daenerys wouldn't have turned the way she did. But Sansa, to me, was a catalyst for all of that. But hey, it's justified because she ended up being right in some stupid, weird way of writing stuff. I hated that.
Yeah, it's funny when you go and rewatch it, and all of Dany's freakouts they're more prominent. So like when she starts yelling at the is Karth the place she goes to first after Vas Dothrak?
Yeah.
Yeah,
when she starts yelling at the bald guy at Karth.
Yeah.
And when I first watched it, I was like, well, of course, she's upset. But after knowing what happens, I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I wasn't watching this correctly.
Okay, I'll stop you right there. So Special Ray, I don't know if Special Ray's still here. He's a good example of like, what I've noticed is that people that binge watched Game of Thrones when all the seasons were out have less of a problem with Daenerys' turn than the people that kind of started watching it, maybe not from the beginning, but a good amount of time. And because you're watching things back to back, you're seeing Daenerys' worst moments. But I still don't think it's enough bad moments to justify burning a city and children alive.
Yeah. There's too much good. And she spends too much time talking about breaking the wheel and everyone around her spends too much time.
Not to interrupt you again, but this is another freaking example of D&D not including a character they should have, which is young Griff, fake Aegon, because that's going to be the catalyst for her doing that in the books, which makes way more sense. Because they're crowning a fake dragon, essentially. She's going to get there. She's going to be like, excuse me? Who are you? Like, they should have totally put him in the show. It would have been so much better.
So Special Ray started watching Game of Thrones after I sent him the cards. So Special Ray, when you say you saw it coming,
the Dany turn.
Dany turning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People that watch it back to back see it more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still think it's a cop-out because at the beginning of that episode, they play like a snippet of all of Dany's like worst moments. I hated that. I'm like, oh no, they didn't.
But how is Dany? Okay, so Dany did one thing that turned her, which is she burned King's Landing, right?
Basically. I
mean, Jon doesn't. He's with her right up until the point where she burns King's Landing.
She is my queen.
Yeah, I mean, like So how is that any different than what Aegon the Conqueror did, like in Dorne or anywhere else?
Aegon the Conqueror didn't kill people. Didn't kill anyone in Dorne. They all hid. Everyone in Dorne hid. Harrenhal and everywhere else he killed people, but everyone in Dorne hid.
So he burned Harrenhal. He burned Dorne,
Yeah.
believing that he was killing people, and then they realized that the people weren't there, right?
Right. Yeah.
But Dany's
He also,
like, I didn't think she was evil for doing that. It's like, hey, she told
what I expected. So this is where it could have been like a halfway point between good and evil of Dany is for her to fly to King's Landing, right? And then we see her standing there, right? Like, okay, don't do it, Dany, don't do it. Instead of just mowing the freaking lawn all across King's Landing, you go straight to the Red Keep.
yes.
And you're not only burning the Red Keep and everybody inside it, but you're also burning the innocents that Cersei put there on purpose.
Yeah.
So those are your innocents, not the whole town. She could
Mhm.
have burned those innocents, and then we could have had a conversation. But they wanted to end the show.
Drogon burned them, and if we believe House of the Dragon,
here we go.
Dragons can't necessarily. Did she
So,
yell? Did
so
she yell?
this is the thing.
She did yell to Karst
They
before she
still
flew,
left
right?
open.
Yeah.
They still left open the idea that maybe it depends on what the connection is, because Aemon is not Vagar's first rider. So I think that has a lot to do with it. That Vagar is an old dragon. He's not going to be told what to do.
They
by
left
someone
no
that's
room
12.
for interpretation with Drogon and Dany. She was very clearly happy with her choice. that
Yeah.
Stalin
She
speech
was-
she did.
she
She
was
was happy. Mhm.
Hey, listen.
It also hurts
Those people
that
had a
she
choice.
tells-
They need to get out. I'm sorry. If they lock the gate on you, you got to seek shelter, or you got to get the
It
hell
just
out of
makes
there.
me so mad because it ruins like so many cool moments. Like we get to see like Jon back at King's Landing fighting. All these Winterfell men are there, and it just gets ruined by horrible writing choices.
And the soldiers of
Aaron Rodgers.
the soldiers of House Stark of Winterfell,
They
the
were
Northmen.
they're freaking raping people too. Like they were just horrible.
And Jon's like,
Everyone, yeah, it's like
stop
no,
everybody.
that's not what Jon would have let his men do.
Everyone turned to the dark side, like literally everybody, and they just blamed Daenerys for it. Even Grey Worm, and the biggest BS to me is that the Dothraki and the Unsullied let Jon live after killing Daenerys. There's no freaking way. Okay,
Of course.
so ridiculous.
He should have been stabbed again, and then
Yeah, sweet.
They wouldn't have had they wouldn't have had anybody to bring him back. But no, to me, I watched it, and at the end, I was like, you know what? It's brutal, but anybody who thinks that innocent people aren't casualties of war clearly have never seen the first thing about any war that's ever happened anywhere.
No, I completely agree.
Happens,
but
and I'm like, why is all of a sudden Tyrion turns into a puss, and Tyrion's like, you gotta put a stop to this, Jon.
Tyrion deserved to get killed a long ass time ago too, if you ask me.
Tyrion, oh my god, the biggest complaint I had of the whole series, and I love the series. I have a channel that covers it, so I love the series. The biggest complaint is at the end. Tyrion goes, "Who better to be king than someone with?"
Bro, no, stop it! Don't even repeat it.
Story.
Don't even repeat it.
He was gone for half the story.
His story, Tyrion. How about his story that this little mf'er knew everything that was going to happen for the last 7 years and let millions of people die?
But
when
that's the point, Sundowners. He can't interfere. All this stupid crap like that to me, Tyrion, like I just wanted to step on him when he said that stupid crap. And not only that, but we spent like the first 20 minutes of him walking through the rubble. Like, we don't need to see this. We get it. You want to emphasize the point that what she did was horrible. That's fine. And
Bran, I'm sorry I wasn't there. You were where you were meant to be.
Bro, all he said was NPC lines. That's all he said the entire freaking episode. God, I hate Bran.
I'm telling you, like, if I get one thing that I want as a fan, and I want this so bad, and I think it's possible, not likely, but possible, is a new series that maybe it's not Jon's series, maybe it is, where Bran becomes the villain of the story, and Bran has to be taken out. Like,
one of my many
at the end of the show, Drogon was one of the most popular, even though he burned King's Landing. Fans, I never heard any fans criticize Drogon because he's an animal. So they love Drogon. They got pissed at Dany, or they pissed at the writers for making Dany turn. But at the end of the show, they make it very clear Bran is looking for Drogon. He He says,
He's keeping
I'm leaving.
tabs on him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he leaves the council because he's gonna go see if he can find him. He's gonna work, right? Like he's gonna go try to find Drogon. So
And here's the thing too about that
what's he
ending.
gonna do with Drogon?
They're not gonna do crap, Sundown. This is just them trying to give you something like a little tidbit, like, oh, he's keeping track of Drogon, but psych, we're not gonna do anything with it. Like, this is okay. So George, this is one of the 3 things George told them, right? The Hodor thing, Bran becoming king, and what was the other one? Daenerys burning King's Landing. Was that one of them? I can't remember, but he told them.
No, the Hound and the Mountain. George told him that.
Clegane Bowl?
No, George would never. The books never hint at a Clegane Bowl. That was totally a fan thing that they made come to life.
I thought that one of the stories had to do with the Hound. Was it the Hound's vision, or what? There was something with the Hound? I thought there was.
Oh no, I think it might have just been R plus L equals J.
Maybe.
Well, he didn't tell him that. That's
how no. It was Shireen's death. It was Shireen's death. Shireen Baratheon, being burned at the stake by her freaking father and the witch.
Oh, Dad, I hope you're here. Did he really tell him that?
Yeah.
Oh, Dad's gonna be pissed.
Shireen, poor Shireen. That was another. That was another. Well, I love Stannis. I hated the way Stannis died.
Yeah.
In the show.
Dan loves Stannis. Stannis is his guy.
Oh hell yeah, Stannis the Manus. Are you kidding me? He's freaking awesome.
And the actor's badass is Stannis.
Yes,
he is Stannis.
I love that guy.
If you watch interviews with the actor who played Davos, I always forget his name, but he talks about working with him.
Liam Cunningham.
Yes, Liam Cunningham. He talks about working with him. You have to look it up. It's so funny. He's like, he was literally Stannis. Like he didn't even know what the show was about. I had to help him with the lines. He didn't even care. He just went there, showed up, went to work, and left. Like, and that is Stannis right there. Like that is amazing. But what was I going to say? So in the books, I can maybe see Bran being king because Bran's journey in the books is wild. The visions he gets when he finally sees a 3-eyed raven, like it's some dark stuff.
He's also not friggin' annoying.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be king at the end of the last book.
Well, George has said on 90 different interviews now that he's basically rewritten his outline. So I think people were so angry about Bran being king that he changed his mind. But I'll tell you what pissed me off the most. It wasn't Dany burning King's Landing. It wasn't Jon going north. It wasn't even Arya killing the Night King. It was Podrick Payne becoming a member of the Kingsguard. Are you kidding me? He's not even a knight yet.
That should be the thing that pisses you off the least because they show you throughout the seasons that Brienne has been training him for the longest time.
Here you go, Caleb. I had to put on my hand to the king.
Love it.
There you go.
I'm sorry. No.
It's out of everything that freaking happened, Caleb, that's probably the most earned thing because he trained.
No. The most earned thing was Brienne getting knighted.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But no, he
I love
still
that scene,
gets
by the way.
tripped up by Bronn in the 7th season.
Bronn is another character that is not even this important in the books, but he's a fan favorite, so they extended his stay, and you could tell by his
and that's what happens in shows. Like Bronn gets on there, and all of a sudden the fans love Bronn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's look, I don't blame Dan and Dave. You walk in after the season's over, and the fans are going more Bronn. We need Bronn. We need Bronn, and they're like, look, we got to write more scenes for Bronn. That actually is totally reasonable to be that when you're talking about the books versus a TV series or a movie where you have a character that is I was going to say that when I was talking about the theater, the guy that ran the movie theater, that's a VP, when the theaters were struggling during COVID, even before that, I think the conversation was in season 6 or 7. And I was watching these videos of people at the bars watching Game of Thrones, right? It was becoming a phenomenon. By season 6, it was a phenomenon. And I said something to him man, the theaters are kind of struggling, when summer's over and you have the fall when movies are coming out and nobody goes to the theater. It's why wouldn't you take something like Game of Thrones and put it in the theater and locally and have, instead of people going to the bar or somewhere to watch it on a smaller TV, they could come to the theater and watch it in a huge screen and he said it had something to do with the rights, right? The license or the rights to do it.
That makes sense.
But I was like, didn't HBO and I think Disney Plus, of course, their content wouldn't look good on the big screen, but some of these streaming providers, like they should broker agreements with the movie theaters to take some of these really popular, like Stranger Things. Think about Stranger Things. They're about to have their last season.
Oh, I would go. I would go just for that.
Like Stranger Things is going to have a huge. It's one of the top 2 shows in the history.
Imagine
of
the
Netflix.
scene with Eddie playing the guitar and the upside down on the big screen. That would have been dope.
You got 16, 17-year-old kids in the theater. You got 20-something. You got people of all ages going to see that, and it's got a scary factor to it. So it's kind of has that horror, part.
It's retro. It's a retro show.
Like, I don't know why they wouldn't do that, man. That'd be so cool to do it. But it's almost like the streaming providers and
there's a big reckoning coming with the streaming stuff. They're realizing.
I think we're going to see people downsizing.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Paramount's already been told they need to end Paramount Plus. That's why they just combined Paramount Plus with Showtime. They're trying to increase their subscriber count.
They're not going to end Paramount Plus though. They made slow down the content, some of the content.
And what Pierce was saying, that Arya shit is unforgivable. The Arya killing the Night King is a perfect example of what happens when instead of focusing on story, you focus on the tropes subverting your expectations. That's when it was really peaking. When
someone said that to Kit. Someone said that to Kit at the con I was at. You should have killed the Night King.
He says that too. He's like, man, I thought that was going to be me.
He was like, yeah, tell that. He said, tell that to, what did he call it? I can't remember what he referred to, the powers that be, or said something. He didn't say HBO.
And at the time that it happened, because everybody was watching this episode with bated breath, it got people. It was like, oh yeah, Arya did it, whatever. But then when the dust settled, you're like, wait a minute. Why was it her that did it?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. And it did it for the shock value.
We've literally been told that it's going to be Jon. And then in
they just don't want to be right. It's like I think something happened similar to Westworld, that the show leaked on Reddit or someone guessed it on Reddit, so they changed what was going to happen in season 2 or something like that. It's like just because people know what's coming doesn't mean that it's going to be bad, that people are not going to like it. It's one thing to think it, and it's another thing to experience it.
We knew what was happening in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I got so frustrated when Jon like hides behind the rock and he in the scene
screams at the dragon.
It starts to slow down.
I've forgotten about that.
And you're watching the scene and you know that the Night King is already there right in front of Bran, and you start to realize Jon can't get there in time. And it dawns on you that Bran's either something's gonna happen here, but it's not gonna be what you think. And then all of a sudden she comes flying through the air like the freaking Green Goblin.
I thought Bran was gonna do some sort of like control thing and like end it. Honestly, what I thought was gonna happen was Bran was gonna jump back in time and end it all back then.
Yeah, and Nymeria and the direwolves were just hanging out, in the woods. They're like,
oh, talk about season 7 when she finally runs into her and Nymeria just decides to walk away.
Yeah.
Later.
That's not you. Shut up. If your budget doesn't go and pay for that freaking wolf to go with Arya, I swear to God. It was so dumb. And Ghost was gone for a while too until that episode. You just see him pop up randomly in the background behind Sam. You're like, oh my God, where the hell have you been?
Yeah, and we, of course, they had the budget. HBO was going to write them a blank check.
Yeah, they didn't want to. They were checking out at that point, man. They
got their Netflix money and they got their Disney money and they were ready to leave.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if some of the wolves are still alive, because when I went to Ireland, you could meet the wolves that were in the show.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm looking. They have not had anything recently on the wolves. So the last thing they talked about when you go to Ireland to meet them was like 2019 when I was there. Did you see my post on Twitter
about the Crips?
Yeah, the Crips of Winterfell.
We have a video coming out, or a couple videos coming out this week. The Crips.
I just decided to put that on there because it was short, but I have every costume from the show, like every costume in the war. Daenerys is in the north, and
In the video, not in your house.
no, I had the photos of,
Yeah.
of all
Nikki was starting to get jealous.
the actual Iron Throne from the show,
Oh
the
my
swords.
You know what? When I make partner, my desk chair is going to be an Iron Throne.
It's gonna hurt your ass.
You know what I want? I want for our desk the painted table.
Yes.
I want from House of the Dragon where they
Right
had.
there,
the
you
I've
got
been
what-
trying to find somewhere to buy something like that.
Somebody's going to make that. I've been looking online.
If they aren't making it already, to be honest.
Yeah. So the fact that they put out just about every other prop from a movie or series that has kind of that mystique, like the painted table. The ability of someone to build a table and have like LED lighting that lights up orange.
Well, that's our background right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, someone's going to make that table.
Gorgeous.
Now it may not look right for like a YouTube channel where your camera's facing this way and not down, but I still think it would be cool to have a set where you're sitting talking to a panel of people or whatever, and the camera at least shows part of the table.
If they do it to scale and everything, and they make
it's got to be to scale.
It would be like a couple grand easily.
Now, what would be really cool, and if they ever do make the table, the YouTube channels will pop up. But they've got the Game of Thrones tabletop stuff. That's what will start being cool. Is the channels that pop up with the painted table that they then play the Game of Thrones tabletop game on.
I was looking the other day
trying to watch that.
I'm in the market to buy like 2 pinball machine games, and I was looking at some of the Game of Thrones. They have one that came out in 2015 or 16, and it's not bad. It's not really to the level that I would like them to make a newer version of it. But it's okay. You can look it up online. It's the Game of Thrones pinball machine by Stern, and it's good, but it's kind of like the Mandalorian, a little underwhelmed. I played the Mandalorian pinball machine game at the Comic-Con a few weeks ago, and it's okay. It's like, for what they're trying to sell it for, it's not really worth it.
Oh yeah, this
is
it the one with here? Is it
it's got the banners on when you're looking in the middle? It's got all the house banners.
Yeah.
So yeah, there it is. See the banners?
Yeah, and apparently there's 3 editions.
Yeah, there's 3. There's the first one does not have Daenerys on it.
This just screams Lord of the Rings games by EA.
Yeah, I'm not buying anything that doesn't have Daenerys on it. So the third one's probably that's the one where she from season 5
with Khal Drogo on it.
No, yeah, where she's in.
I know this is really random, but a dream show of mine from this lore that they're building out. First of all, as much as I love A Night of the 7 Kingdoms, don't give me that because you're still not done with the book for that either. What I would like is a show about old Valyria at the height of its power, because that would be the most high fantasy show to exist, more than Game of Thrones.
And what's cool, what made me think about that they may be thinking about doing something like that, is that Viserys was he built it, the model.
Oh yeah, the little model.
That was so cool when she walked in there and Otto says, "You got to go spend time with the king," and she goes in and he's tinkering with the model. And I was like, "Oh my god, what a great scene!"
Absolutely, yeah.
The show, the animation they did when they had the cast narrating some of the lore. Yeah. Those animations of old Valyria, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to see this in live action.
Yeah,
it's absolutely. So high fantasy. It's amazing. I would love to see
I love all that stuff. Like when Tyrion and what's his name?
Jorah.
No, it was Jamie, wasn't it?
Jorah.
Oh yeah, and they
are going through old Valyria.
Yeah, they're going through. Yeah, and you see like the statues.
Yep.
And it reminded me of like in the show that went completely off the rails, the TV show Lost, where they're like somewhere and there's a big foot on the island, like a statue, a broken foot. And I love all that kind of mythology around like the Bravos, the statues, right, when you go into the port of a city or
Well,
you go somewhere.
and
Lord of the
Tyrion,
Rings did it. The kings.
yeah,
Yes.
and Tyrion and Jorah say the little poem about the doom too. I
Yeah.
thought that was a really nice.
I love that.
I was
scene.
just looking that up, trying to remember what Jorah said about Valyria, because I remember listening to that going, "Oh my gosh, that's poetic."
Remind me, because I have to go back and watch it. Was there a moment where Tyrion saw
Yeah,
Drogon flying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they both
and
do.
he's in like awe.
Yeah, he sees him flying over Lyria. Yeah, dude, I love that part before.
And also, I season 5 is mostly a shit show, except for Hardhome and a few other moments, and like Drogon coming to Daenerys' rescue and stuff. But Tyrion meeting, oh, man, I've had so many dragon names in my head now that I can't remember.
Drogon?
No, the two brothers. Viserion and
Viserion and Rhaegal.
Viserion and Rhaegal,
yeah.
when Tyrion goes down when they're chained up and he
Oh,
meets
that's
them,
right. Yeah.
and how he
Dude, that
talks
was
to them.
Great scene.
Mhm.
I dreamed about you when I was a child.
Yes. Oh my
Yes.
God. I love
that
that
was so
scene.
good. Like
Mhm.
that's the scene. That scene right there, Nikki, was where like I was all in on Tyrion, because I was like, I'm not the biggest Tyrion fan. I like his humor, but
Mhm.
like I need to see more from him. It's like, if he's just gonna be the drunk guy cracking jokes every other week, like, is it the little man that's the little bit of a jester? When he has that scene, that to me, and then the scenes with Sansa after that, it created all these layers to Tyrion that I really, really
And
like.
Book Tyrion is an evil SOB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let me ask
ugly
you,
too.
Did you prefer, going with book 5, did you prefer how Kevin dies in book 5 as opposed to being blown up in the Sept of Baelor?
Oh, he basically got the Maester's death, right, in the books instead. He got shanked to death by all the little birds, right? Am I reading?
No.
Well, it was the spiders killed him.
Varys.
Yeah, Varys.
Varys kills him with a crossbow, so that Tyrion will be blamed. But he kills him because he literally says, "You're doing too good a job fixing everything, so bye-bye."
Yeah. That's another
it
character.
added so my problem, as much as I love season 6, episode 10, because that's when Kevin dies in the Sept, when it gets blown up.
Yes, yeah.
So as much as I love that, I also don't like that they use that as a way to also just get rid of characters because they didn't know what to do with them anymore.
Yeah, let's stick 5 or 6 characters in the same spot and just blow them all up.
Like, in my theory is that in the books, I think the younger, more beautiful person from Cersei's prophecy is actually going to be Marjorie, and I wouldn't be surprised if because Marjorie shows up and she takes over and all this stuff, and then young Griff, I call him Fagon, like fake Aegon. I think young Griff is gonna show up and marry the Dorne chick. I forgot, because that's another thing too. Dorne is so like interesting in the books. Like, they have their own little plots and schemes that they're putting in motion, and
schemes that have been going on since the first Aegon.
Yeah, and Rhaegar was gonna help put a lot of that into perspective too. Rhaegar, he was gonna, because he was married to Martell, so. Oh my God, so much stuff that they missed out on in the show. But yeah, that Winds of Winter episode, like, it was just a way for them to get rid of like Marjorie, Loras, Kevin. They're like, all right, we're done with these characters and we need to move on. It's just like, all right, well, I guess.
So I got a question for you, because it's not in the book, so no spoilers. I'm just speculating. The girl in House of the Dragon who got assaulted by Aegon, Diana.
Yeah.
She's coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is she going to be a minor role, or is she going to be that person in the background that when somebody dies towards the end of the show, is she going to be the one that did it?
If someone that dies, put it in private chat, because I'm
yeah.
You know what? When I read about her coming back, the first thing that popped into my mind was in Game of Thrones, when they had the culling of the bastards in King's Landing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what came to mind. As dark as that is. Oh,
Oh, that's right.
that doesn't happen for a long time though.
But if
Last
you're doing,
season.
if you're doing a good job writing, you
Plant the seed.
you plant the seeds now.
I think that would be sweet justice for sure.
Because that's the kind of stuff that in the history of Britain and the history of like, characters of people, it's usually the person that is not likely, right? It's usually the person that gets access but is not seen as any kind of threat that
Mhm.
that takes somebody out.
So you think that's going to happen because of the thing?
Because of what we saw in
did?
season 1?
Yeah.
Possibly. I'm like, why would they bring her back?
I think.
What's the point of bringing her back?
So I think she's back because I have a feeling that there's going to be a turning point on the Greens. Because so far, in the book, both Rhaenyra and Alicent are just bad. But so far in the show, it seems like every single decision has been made to make Rhaenyra the good girl.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that they're making it so.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be a breaking point.
Yeah, that's
got Rhaenyra. Yeah, so Rhaenyra, there's two things that's going to happen. There's blood and cheese.
Oh my! That is going to be one of the most shocking things people are ever going to see.
And there's Adam Valerian, and there's Nettles. There's lots of stuff.
Nettles.
Yeah.
Where Rhaenyra, there's no way to spin it.
But I think one thing that's going to happen is I think how long between the last episode of season 1 and let's say the end of the show? It's probably only going to be a year and a half.
That's true. I wonder how long it takes.
I think it's 2 years. I think the whole thing is like
2?
Let's see. So I can tell you right now.
And the whole Eric and Ark thing. It's like a little side plot, but
so Viserys died in 132 AC.
And then blank dies when?
So
hang on, Viserys dies in 132. He can't. He dies in 129.
You can't.
Special Ray, we're not going to tell you what blood and cheese is because that would be robbing you. That would be robbing you of a crazy experience. But it's not on par with the Red Wedding, but it's the same theming. I'll just say that.
So Viserys has to die in 129.
Why does that say? Hold on.
Are you on the wrong Viserys?
No.
Yeah, because there's like 20 of them.
Looking at Patty Considine, they have it wrong on Wiki of Westeros. I'm looking at it right now. It's wrong.
Oh, you have to look at Wiki of Ice and Fire.
Like why? Yeah, but this is a site that's dedicated to it, and that's clearly wrong.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
What episode do you guys think they'll do blood and cheese? It has to be like the first or second.
Early,
episode.
like episode 2.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get kind of lulled into a false sense of security with the first episode. We're gonna think. I think they're gonna introduce people, and then episode 2, episode 3, 6, we're gonna.
So if there's one thing that they always did in Game of Thrones, and it seems to have carried over into House of Dragons, like episode 9 is always like the penultimate episode is always like the crazier one, but then. In season 6, episode 2 is when they brought back Jon Snow. Like they let a whole episode go before they brought him back. So maybe episode 2 would be the one that they do that in because it's like a shocking thing. I want them to explore Helena more and her like.
So we need to find out whether or not she's a seer.
Yeah, which they basically are saying she is.
Yeah. And then we need to know about blood and cheese.
Oh my god, that's gonna be so awful.
We need to. Well, Sundowners just covered this, so I think I can say it. You know who's coming back?
Who?
Laenor is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that confirmed?
The
Son,
yeah,
did
it's
you confirm it?
yeah,
You did a video about
he's
it.
back. He's coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know
Lenore.
when- I don't know when I
Did I just? I'm sorry, Nikki.
No. You didn't ruin anything for me. I mean, I read the damn book. I'm just wondering because he's never mentioned
What
again.
I think something that we're gonna need to see, and this is kind of why I think it's gonna happen.
The full events after Viserys dies is 2 years, 129 AC to 131. It's all over. It's all over in 131.
So I think what something we're gonna see is we're gonna see something to turn us against the blacks, because we need to end the show with people being able to say, "Are you?"
Well, it's going to be that, because I think they're going to confirm Blood and Cheese being sent by someone on the blacks. Like, I'm not going to say the name, but you guys know who probably sent them.
Oh, absolutely. That person 100% sent them.
A son for a son, as they say.
Yeah. But I actually think they're going to keep that vague. I think
it's pretty much confirmed. John McMillan is been seen.
Yeah,
has been seen on set. I mean, that's not official, but yeah.
I think what's going to happen is that
hopefully a certain person sees him before Rook's Rest is all.
Yeah, I think we're going to think the other person did Blood and Cheese, which would make sense because that person has a history. And then she's going to do something with Aegon's bastard.
They have to make Rhaenyra do something insane to balance it out a bit. Even though Alicent technically, Alicent technically hasn't done anything yet. That's like that evil.
It's gonna be a little bit of the Daenerys plot where Rhaenyra loses more. She has more loss, and she literally gets paranoid, and she starts turning on the people that are on her side, and these characters that we've mentioned before that are on her side, if they're written the right way, they're going to be fan favorites. I mean, if they write Adam and Nettles correctly, you're going to see social media light up. Like it's going to be like, and
I'm excited for Adam.
You know that's going to happen where it's like she didn't, people are going to get all on Rhaenyra. Like,
what I'm curious is how they're going to handle what Aemon did, right? So I have two things I'm thinking of. So what I'm thinking is, number one, he's gonna show back up and he's gonna tell his mom and Otto what happened, that it was an accident. He's gonna be a little bit belligerent about it. What Otto's gonna do is like, okay, this doesn't leave this room. We can't say that he's gonna use it to his advantage to kind of show like, oh no, they were fighting and the better man won kind of thing. But I think Aemon is gonna feel bad about it, and Alicent's gonna be freaking the hell out. Like, I want to see her reaction to that, to Aemon telling her something just happened.
Listen, so they can't turn Aemon into a little puss.
I don't think they will either. But look at his reaction when that happened. He was like, "Oh."
He needs to walk into that joint and be like, even though we know it was an accident, he needs to lie and walk in there and go, "Listen, I'm an effing dragon."
I think he's going to tell his mom the truth of what happened. He may lie to other people about how it happened. I think he's going to tell his
brother.
He's going to lie to other people about how it happened, but I think he'll tell his mom what really happened, because it would probably devastate her to think that he may have done that on purpose.
His mom's going to have her big toe being sucked on by.
Oh, no. Shut up. Oh, God, I hate that guy so much. What's his name?
Lars.
Freaking Kinslayer. I hate him.
He's like,
oh my gosh.
She's like, I really could use some help. And he's like,
he's such a perv.
That was the best thing. Special Ray says, "What's Blood and Cheese?"
No, we already covered that.
No,
I said
no,
not gonna...
do not tell.
Yeah. It can't be Special Ray.
Oh, we can't tell. We wouldn't do it justice.
That's gonna be one of those reaction things on YouTube that gain a lot of traction, like the Red Wedding did.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
Yeah, but I'm excited for the things that the book, like there's one character, and I'm not going to say who it is. I'm going to spoil it for anybody that sees this. There's one character that we don't know how they meet their end. We don't know their end. Like, we think we know, maybe, but no body's ever found. No, like, to me, I would, if I was writing it, that would be the one time where I would say, I have an idea and I don't want this vetoed. Like, I want it to be. I know some people don't like the Dark Knight Rises analogy of, Bruce Wayne's dead and he shows up in Italy or France and he's eating lunch. I love the scene where Arthur is not Arthur, but Alfred is Michael Caine's there, and the music is playing, and he turns around, and Bruce is like, he's got his girl with him, and Bruce is like, and that's the best. Like, that's what, to me, that's what, when you're that type of character, that's what you do. You exit stage right, and everybody thinks you're dead. So, like, I want to see this character survive all of it, and basically leave the scene, exit stage right with a wink. Kind of like, I made it through.
That'd be tough to pull off.
It would, if it's written well, if it's written the right way, it could be a great. I mean, because it could segue into potential future stories that George has not written. That where they kind of veer into separate stories in different lands, different places beyond Westeros that have to do with lineage and destiny. Like, to me, that would be super cool. Super cool. Like, I think people don't. It's like people go to the well so much. It's kind of like Star Wars. Like, how many times are you going to see Tatooine? How many freaking times does someone show up and write a script and go, okay, so I've got an idea. So we're on Tatooine. Like, I would throw them out of the room. Like, like, you have opportunities when you have this world building that Tolkien has done, that George R.R. Martin has done, that even Lucas has done. I know people criticize Lucas as not some great writer, but he created one hell of a world, right? And, like, like with Star Wars, I've made no secret when I've talked about Star Wars that I mentioned on, I think it was another stream, but maybe we did a video and just didn't post it. I never bought, as a Star Wars fan, I never bought it for 1 second that this woman shows up and she's talking to Qui-Gon. She meets Skywalker and she goes, I don't know who the father was. There was no father. It just sort of happened. I want to know where she came from, because there are other Skywalkers. The
first time I watched it, I did not read
somebody.
Yeah, I did not read a virginal birth into that at all. I just read.
I didn't either. I thought when I saw the first movie
or something,
I walked out of that theater, and I'll tie this back into Game of Thrones, but I walked out of that theater seeing Phantom Menace, and I thought, she's not lying to Qui-Gon, but she doesn't really remember. She doesn't know. Like, she doesn't know what happened. But then I was wondering, like, okay, she has a mother and father. There's Skywalkers out there that Shmi came from, that is the lineage of Anakin and Luke. And I thought that would be a fascinating place to explore in another galaxy, another planet, somewhere completely different that ties into Anakin or ties into Luke, that where you could tell new stories, but it's still Skywalker, which is, the name Skywalker is the same as Targaryen or Stark or Arthur. Like, to me, Skywalker, Disney screwed that up so bad that they Skywalker is another version of Mickey Mouse. It's a brand. You should have, the fact that Disney does not have somebody dressed up as Luke Skywalker walking around their parks is idiotic. It's just idiotic. And, like, so to me, tying this into Game of Thrones, like, you don't have to wait. Yeah, you have to have probably approval from George R.R. Martin, but, like, you could tell some part of a story where there's some sort of tie-in, but it goes to other parts of the lands that we haven't seen yet. I think, Nikki, you said on another stream, or maybe one of mine, that you wanted to see, like, the ET, the other parts of the lands around Westeros.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many places you could go.
The Shadowlands of Asai.
Like, what's west of Westeros, or
screw that, because if they do that, they're gonna bring Arya back, and I don't want to see her stupid little face anymore. I want to see the lands of
what she looks like now.
The Shadowlands. Like, there's so many places you could go.
That's literally where the Red Woman is from, isn't it? Like, all the Red priestesses, they go to the Asai.
Yeah,
like, that'd be
like
creepy.
And so this character that we're talking about, who's at Fire and Blood, they never found a body. That, to me, that's an opening. That's an opening to tell a different set of stories that you don't have to wait on George R.R. Martin. it could be, it's no different than when Lucas kind of semi-retired and he let everybody start writing the books. And you've got all these great books. There were some really great books. And he gave them a few rules. There are certain things you can't cover or, but other than that, have at it, right? He gave them the ground rules and they wrote the expanded universe. And I think, why couldn't you do the same thing? And I know George said he doesn't want anybody to write the main stories but him. But if you veered off into a separate story and
well, that's what's going to end up happening when he
it is. It's too big. It's way too big.
And there's too much more to cover that you could cover so many different places and it wouldn't ruin the canon of the main story.
Yeah.
And that's why these idiots on Amazon, they're doing Rings of Power. They were set up to fail when they're like, oh, this character, is it Gandalf? Like, who is this character? And, Galadriel, where we got to bring her in, and Sauron, like, stupid. Like you could have told a different story that's set in Middle Earth in that's completely independent, and fans would have eaten it up potentially, because as long as you didn't get into identity politics, which is hard for them to not do. But, you could tell a story that is more contained, but has nothing to do with Sauron and Gandalf and others. And fans would have loved it because they want to see the exploration of Middle Earth. And the little things. It's like Harry Potter. People want to see more of the school in Hogwarts and the classes.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Hogwarts Legacy went off so well. It's because people wanted to be back in that world.
And they just want to spend time there in like Diagon Alley and choosing this or going here and visiting that. Like when we went to Universal, my kids are not big Harry Potter fans, but as we were walking through the little shops around Universal and they were walking into the store, the candy stores, and then the wand shop, and getting to spend some time, they started to pay attention. And next thing you know, we're in this place 20 minutes. We're in this place 20 minutes. And they start to build a level of knowledge as kids of Harry Potter that sticks with them. When you're 6 years old, you don't remember it. But when you're 9 or 10, those things stick in your brain of like,
absolutely.
You start to learn. And that's what I did. When I first saw Star Wars, I was so little that I remembered the droids and I remembered lightsabers. That's it. And Darth Vader scared me. But by the time, I went to the theater to see Empire when it first came out. And I walked out of that theater, completely shocked. Like, oh my God, that's his dad. Like, is he lying? I remember talking to friends. They're like, he's lying. He's not really his dad. And then you waited 3 years and you're a little bit older and you have more perception and understanding of the world a little bit. And you're like, okay, he is his dad. And here's what happened. Yep. And you're creating texture to the lore that you're learning about. Same thing with Game of Thrones. And that's why I think they're doing Knights of the Seven Kingdoms. I think it's, they're going to explore different parts of Westeros in a little bit of a less violent way to introduce, I think, some younger audiences to it. I think that's what my gut tells me, that they're going to go a little bit lighter on Dunk and Egg to bring in a little bit different audience, slightly.
Oh man, well, the casting for Dunk has to be like
gotta get it right.
Perfect.
So that's by the way, Sundowners, was I right? Is that who you think is going to be traveling around later?
I think he was talking about this person.
House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
He meant like if he's going to have
yeah.
Nikki, Did we not find that one?
There's rumors.
In the private chat, Nikki got that right. Yeah. There's somebody in House of the Dragon who it is debated what happens to him.
Okay. Because I don't think they find the body of the other one that I mentioned, but
they don't. But I think it's implied that Luke got freaking smushed.
Yeah. The character I want to know more about, and a show from a Shy or something would do really well, is Quaithe.
All the theories surrounding Quaithe, and then nothing happened.
Right?
They could have even made her be Melisandre, and it would have made sense because Melisandre was looking for the Lord of Light. It would have made sense. or a story about her, Melisandre. Like her chapter in the book is really interesting. Melanie.
Are
lot
you
7.
guys surprised we haven't seen Melisandre in House of the Dragon?
Would she be
Why?
alive at the
She's
time?
9,000
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah, she because House of the Dragon is 100 and how many years before the events? 130?
170, isn't it?
170?
Isn't
She's how old is
Aegon?
Melisandre?
Isn't Mad Aegon's rule like 300 AC?
So
I think she's awesome as remember the oh my god.
283. So yeah, Game of Thrones takes place about 300 AC.
Her approximate age is 400 years.
By the time of what?
Game of Thrones.
Starts or ends?
Well, I mean,
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Game of Thrones only takes place over the course of like 5 years, right?
True.
So she absolutely is alive during House of the Dragon. She's alive during Aegon's conquest.
You know, it'd be tricky though to include her because then that means that she was what a dumbass the entire time of Game of Thrones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like she knew all the Targaryens before Game of Thrones, and yet she was still searching for the Lord of Light. Like, I wouldn't make.
But do you think it would be total fan service and not?
I love the idea that we're gonna get like a scene where we're watching like Rhaenyra or someone in King's Landing, and you just kind of hear part of a conversation that happens off screen. And you hear about this idiot going around in Volantis or Marine talking about like trying to find the next Azor Ahai.
Yeah, but see the problem that's when the problem of like the retcon of all the Targaryens knowing about the prophecy of you're the heir kind of comes in. That'd be an issue. Yeah, it's problematic. It's tricky. So maybe they can find a way to include her. But again, you're telling me she knew some Targaryens before Game of Thrones started and she wasn't out looking for Daenerys instead of she was like simping for Stannis. It wouldn't make sense.
But this is the thing, because she's not, or it wasn't a complete retcon because.
But when she meets Daenerys, she reacts to Daenerys immediately. Right.
But the prophecy thing isn't really a retcon because in book 3 we get the conversation about the witch in the forest in the Riverlands that tells the Mad King's, I think, grandfather, Azor Ahai will come from your line. The prince that was promised will come from your line.
That's another thing that frustrated me in the show is they do a lot with prophecy, and at the end of the show,
absolutely nothing.
It's like, hey, you know all that stuff we covered?
Melisandre's like, Jon Snow and Daenerys met. My work here is done. It's like, okay, whatever.
She just walks out, and after the battle, she just walks out, and but no, they spent all this time on these prophecies, and at the end of the show, they're like, all you people that paid attention for the last 8 years, you dumbasses, it's just a show with swords. Everybody's dead. It's almost like it kind of plays you a little bit because you're like, you think all these things are going to be answered or at least explored a little bit further, and most of them are not. And if I had to pick one single thing that I dislike the most about the TV show, and I do think the books are going to be different, is the whole thing about Bran. That's the thing. It's my biggest issue with the show. And my favorite thing about the show is the characters that had smaller roles that just stuck with me, like the Faceless Man, Jaqen, and
I love this fine ass
Dario and Braun, like these characters that were supporting characters, and there were. I mean, I just named 3, and you guys could probably name another 5 each.
Well,
that were smaller characters.
Hot Pie stuck with a lot of people.
Oh my god! When he showed up again, everybody was like, "Oh my god!"
It was a cute little seed.
Yeah,
it was so much better than Ed Sheeran.
I made you a pie.
I thought you were a boy.
You're pretty.
You're here. Jon Snow, he's king of the North.
And Gendry kind of got like a so-so ending. Like, I guess, whatever. He's like the Lord of Storm's End decreed by a queen that they murdered and is no longer a queen, but I guess Bran honored it. or whatever.
Gendry just running through the snow and the ice to go get the
Bro, oh my god, never mind. See, not even that character was safe from the destruction.
But like, Barrick and I mean all these characters that were like smaller supporting characters.
Mhm.
Zack Snyder would
Soros.
not have let a Starbucks cup in the shot.
Thanks, Miss.
Hey, are you guys on a separate note? Zack Snyder made me think of this. Gareth
Oh,
Edwards' movie, The Creator. Have you seen the trailer for that? Are you guys excited for The Creator?
Is that the thing they were
It just
talking
looks
about
like
in the
another generic chosen child, but futuristic thing to me. I'm just like, whatever.
It's kind of like what was the book that the movie was based off of? I think the movie AI, the Droid's Dream. What was the book it was based off of? But
no idea.
Yeah, Caleb, you mentioned The Last Kingdom. There's been so many shows that they've tried to replicate Game of Thrones, and it just doesn't work.
So I think Last Kingdom does a decent job of it.
It didn't end very well, though.
Well, so the show I think ended well. The movie was terrible.
The movie was terrible. I was very disappointed. But it just shows you
the
that
the books were so much better.
Yeah, and then there's a new series that's coming on one of these other streaming providers that has to close up shop, and so MGM, and it's based on a series of books. I
might know what you're talking about because I'm excited for it.
Winter King.
Yes, I'm really excited for it.
No, I haven't seen it. I heard of it though.
So the Winter King is a novel, and the TV series, the novel has been out for a long time.
So here's the trailer.
Familiar.
It's by Bernard Cornwell.
Yes, I love the guy. He's written two of my favorite characters.
Yeah, it's the Warlord Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
Is the book. It came out around the same time as Game of Thrones. 1995.
Oh yeah. So this is the trailer, and I've never been hit before, so I'm just gonna play it.
Have you seen this, Nikki?
Darkness is coming.
No. Full screen it.
The Saxons will take the Isle. Come home, Arthur. Only you can save Britain.
They made Merlin black.
I was gonna say.
Man. No family, no country. You truly are my bastard.
The gods, they have a plan for you.
Bring the country together.
It's your destiny. Vengeance is the way of things.
Maybe the way of things has to change. We must unite the tribes.
It's time for something new. For something new. For something new.
Your plan better work, brother, or we're all lost.
It's easy to divide a country. The hard task is putting it back together.
I didn't recognize a single person in the.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. That's how Game of
I-
Thrones was, except for Sean Bean, and they killed his ass.
I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah.
One of the pet peeves I always have, and it's okay if it
Except more.
changes.
Oh, sorry, never mind. Go ahead.
I just, I hate it when I see them and they have short hair that looks like it's been cut.
Oh,
No.
so it's not like super accurate to the time.
Yeah, I mean, it does look, Damio, it does look pretty good. I mean, trailers, obviously usually show what they think are the best shots, but they're on location. That's good. It looks like they're filming in England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, so that's good. But I want to see the main guy playing Arthur. He's there's a lot to that character if it's done the right way. So, we'll see. Whenever I see the hair cut short, and I know there was a Roman influence, but Arthur, I don't know. When you think about the Saxons, you think about the geography of that and the history. Those characters were outside all the time. They had beards. They looked like what you saw with Ned Stark and Game of Thrones, and longer hair. And so to me, that brings some authenticity to it. Authenticity. But
I still think to this day, in terms of like historical stuff, obviously the show I'm about to mention is not super accurate, but I'm still blown away by the first 3 to 4 seasons of Vikings because that's a History Channel show. And,
Yeah.
and I put that show almost on par with
Dude.
the Game of Thrones, to be
Dude.
honest. Those first couple seasons are so good.
Travis playing Ragnar,
Yes.
badass. And
Yeah.
that's a guy that I would love to see in the Game of Thrones world.
Mm-hmm.
Like just bad. And he's miscast. Like since Vikings, it's the same thing with Emilia Clarke. They who is casting them in these roles? Like they need to fire their management. Like
Yeah, their agent must be
you
terrible.
don't have an understanding of who your client is as an actor.
Yeah,
Like,
and what's crazy because again, he was amazing as I think Ragnar, his version of Ragnar is one of my favorite
amazing
TV characters of all time. But then you go to Raised by Wolves and he was horrible in it.
You know what, Star Wars Marvel purists, you're exactly right. When Ragnar exits the show, I watched
over.
it, but I was done with it.
I still haven't even finished it. It's the last half of the last season. I still haven't even watched.
Then you're a Lagertha fan?
Oh, great.
Not
I mean,
gonna
I assumed it was coming for a while anyways.
I'm not gonna be happy. I don't know. I mean, like
and it's not even that too. They also ruined I don't know how it ends, but they ruined Floki. His story was so cool and interesting, that character, and then he just F's off to freaking Iceland or wherever the hell.
Yeah, and they took Ivor the Boneless in a different direction than what maybe historical. I mean, there's some murkiness about the history, but yeah. So to me, Ragnar, like the Travis, is it Fimmel or Kimmel? Fimmel. Why isn't he like in John Wick 4? Why isn't he in like House of the Dragon? Same thing with Emilia Clarke. Quit putting her, in Marvel, and why isn't she in, a romantic comedy or these actors like.
She can do serious roles. It's just that tiny woman as a superhero is beyond me.
Yeah.
That
especially when you consider that the Super Skrulls were big creatures.
Look at the actors in that show, and they had some heavyweight actors. And
I argue too, because something Mr. Anderson brought up in chat. There's people that don't really like her as an actress in terms for Daenerys. When I think she played Daenerys well, the problem is that in the books, Daenerys was a very quiet, stoic person because you get her inner monologue. So she's constantly thinking about things 24/7. So I feel like her portrayal of like this stoic, like emotionless woman was on purpose because she wanted to be taken serious. She was.
And I'll tell you, to Mr. Anderson, to your point, the one thing I will say about her, she cannot do an American accent very well. She did a movie called Without Suspicion. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. Without Suspicion, I think. It takes place in Kentucky. It's based on a true story of a federal agent, FBI agent that has an affair with this girl, and he kills her. She's
above suspicion.
Above suspicion.
Yep.
Again, there's not any bigger fan of Emilia Clarke than me, but it's painful to watch her do a Southern accent, and I think she struggles to do any American accent. So you have Americans always are accused of well, they can't do the British accents, which X-Wing does a pretty damn good.
I'm rather impressed with the guy.
He does
well. Margot Robbie. Oh, she's Australian, but she does a good American accent, even New York accent.
Yeah, she did a good job in Wolf of Wall Street. She did a good job.
And again, Shiv in Succession was pretty good too. I didn't even know she was British or something in real life.
Yeah. But I think Margot Robbie, that's a good example. She did a good job with Sharon Tate and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so I will be fair in my criticism of Emilia. Like, if she does struggle with non-British accents. And so I think if you look at her work that has really been reviewed somewhat well or done well, it's been when she's speaking in her natural accent. The Last Christmas, Me Before You, or whatever that is, where the guy's in a wheelchair and she's taking care of him. She's really good in that. And, that's kind of a romantic comedy, a little
the
darker.
Worst British accent I've ever heard from an American was Amber Heard in the Snyder Cut as Mira. I'm like, dude, no wonder Joss Whedon was like, you are talking with no freaking accent, because that was horrible. I was like, bro, this cannot be like a final cut. It
You know
sounded
who
so
killed
I
bad.
don't
it?
even remember her in it, so it must have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
This is where the Brits, and we do the same thing. I'm sure the Brit,
Tyrion,
yeah.
he's an American doing a British accent the whole time in Game of Thrones.
The first thing you'll hear from the Brits or you hear from Italians or Spanish is there are different dialects based on what part of those countries you're in. And they're like, well, Americans, you Yanks, you don't know anything about that. Well, what I would say is when you're from another part of the world and you're doing a South Florida or Cuban or you're doing a Philly, so to a lot of people overseas, they think a Philly accent is the same as a Chicago accent. I mean, it's not.
I didn't even
no.
realize I had an accent until I left Miami.
Well,
They're like,
Nikki,
oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Miami. And they're like, oh, because Miami, obviously Florida's in the South, but Miami is not the South.
that's the
No,
problem with hiring an actor that thinks they can do a Latino, South Florida, Cuban accent, and they think it's the same thing as the Bronx, Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm.
here,
They do.
let me defend Nikki here. It's called Latinx.
Oh, shut up.
Latinx. But so I'm very picky about the Southern accent. So a Kentucky dialect is very different from a Georgia
Mhm.
or an Alabama or Tennessee
Absolutely.
dialect.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
So and people that are from different parts of the country can speak to this. And I think that's where when you see someone play a character, and who did a great job of it, who's British, is the girl from Titanic, Kate Winslet, and Mayor of Easttown. When
I've
you
heard
watch
good things
her-
about that show.
when
I
she
need to, but I haven't seen it.
dude, you first of all, Nikki, you love the guy that
Jeremy Renner.
no, the guy that plays in American Horror Story,
Evan Peters?
Evan Peters,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Shut your
He's
mouth.
amazing in Mayor of
He's
Easttown.
a fantastic actor. Like the guy that made American Horror Story. I always forget his name. The creator. He did
Mayor,
Glee.
I thought you were saying Mayor.
Mayor,
what's his name?
M-A-R-E, Mayor.
Yeah.
Their name is Mayor. Her name, her character's name is Mayor.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Mayor of Kingstown,
No,
which
Mayor
is
of
the
Easttown.
Jeremy Renner show.
Okay,
Mayor of-
wait. Back to what I was saying. Ryan Murphy, the creator of American Horror Story, he
Yeah.
was smart and utilizing Evan Peters the way he did. Like every
Yeah.
season, Evan Peters was a completely different person, and he did an accent. And I don't know if you ever saw Hotel, but he played damn, why do I always forget the name of the character that he played? Hotel, and this is very specific accent that he does. Like it's like Chicago-y, old-timey. Damn, and he's the creator of the Hotel Cortez in LA. James Patrick March is who he plays, and it's really well done. That accent is hard.
Damio says the Cali accent. Absolutely. I mean, you speak differently if you're from Northern California versus San Diego or LA or.
All you gotta do is say "dude" every time. Auctioning off, they actually have to talk fast for that. Are you kidding me? They're super slow talkers. You ask New Yorkers what Californians sound like, and they say that like, oh, they talk so slow. Like, what are you talking? Like, they're very slow, and I hate that.
When I had this girl in London when we were in London in 2019 she was tripped out completely about my accent. So she found out where I was from, and she was like, you sound like you talk a little fast for a southern United States accent. I go, what do you think we talk? She goes, well, I just thought you would speak slower.
Because we're all relaxing and having our mint juleps and going to the track for some horse betting.
It took me a second to realize, like, I think she's insulting me. She was just expecting me, hey, how you doing? And I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I mean, not everybody speaks like Johnny Cash. It's from Tennessee.
No one speaks like Johnny Cash.
All
So,
right, guys.
I mean,
I think it's time for me to take off. I gotta
know,
finish some stuff.
Coming up
Yeah, we're hitting the 2-hour mark. I unfortunately, have to be a big boy now and actually go to bed on time.
Yeah, you got a job now in the
Yeah, I think we're
profession,
gonna
right?
wind it down. Yeah, I have to get up at 6 a.m. every day now.
Oh hell no, that's too much for me.
I know, I hate it. It's only because I live 30 minutes away from the office. So,
Yeah, I'm not a morning person at all.
oh no.
No.
But
All
thank you so much to both of y'all for stopping by.
Sure.
Thank you to the chat. Westeros is just one of those worlds that I'd love to. I don't want to live there. It's not a great place to live, but I'd love to, be a fly on the wall for stuff and be able to watch that kind of stuff in real life. That would be amazing. So
love
anytime
Westeros.
I get the opportunity to talk about it, especially with people that actually know what they're talking about, it's just a privilege.
It's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun.
And with that, oh, right. Everybody, go subscribe to the Sundowners Club. Go watch more of Nikki's spicy hot takes on the Salty Inferno.
She's got them.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And like, subscribe.
And she will not ask you to subscribe to her channel, so you just need to do it.
I have to try and practice doing that. It sucks.
Oh,
but thank you.
I'm terrible at it as well.
Yeah.
Listen, I do videos, and after I'm done, he'll say, "You can we edit in like a small piece where you say please subscribe?" And literally, so if you've ever watched any of my normal videos, I never in the video when we record it say please subscribe so we can grow the channel. Yep. I have to add that in afterwards because I forget it every single time.
Felicity does it on our videos, but I'll do this for promotion. How about this? 2 days ago, we put out a House of the Dragon update video, and then today we dropped the Lizzo being fat shaming on fat people.
I know I gotta watch that one. All that.
That was a fun video to make. That was Felicity's idea. But all right, thank you guys.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, have a good one.
Have a good one.
Yep.
Bye.
See y'all.